ॐ दक्षिणास्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशववामन कृष्ण पाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। After having given this knowledge of Sankhya Buddhi, which we saw in the last session, we were just doing the 39th verse of the second chapter. And Krishna spoke to Arjuna from the point of view of the highest truth, the Paramarthika Satyam, and said that you and all of us here, we are not the body, mind, sense complexes, but the very Atma Swarupa. And when you understand this, then none of your actions bind you. Now, it is difficult for Arjuna to understand it, though he has surrendered to Krishna as a Shishya, and he wants, the Shreya, Parama Shreyas, he wants that which is the highest and that which is going to release him from this bondage of samsara. But Krishna knows that exposing him and giving him an exposure to this Atmagnana in a very, very brief manner in these 13 or 12 or 13 verses is not really sufficient because Arjuna is not yet prepared for this knowledge. So Krishna comes down from there to the point of moral, ethical, and also, laukika values, the worldly values. He comes to that. And all these verses, which we saw earlier in the last 2-3 classes, from say the 31st verse, Svadharmam api chaveksha, up till the 38th verse, Sukha dukhe same kritva labha. All these verses, they are called as prasangika. Prasangika means they are contextual verses. They really have no teaching of Bhagavad Gita as such. They are just, there to remind Arjuna also and to remind us also of the context in which Arjuna is and the context in which Krishna has to do this very tough job of making Arjuna understand from the highest point of view, and at the same time motivate Arjuna also to fight this war. And once he has completed this, from the 30 uh, third verse, sorry, from the 39th verse, which we took last time, now Krishna says to Arjuna, look, I have explained to you what is this Sankhya Buddhi. Sankhya Buddhi means what? Sankhya Buddhi, he said in the 39th verse, Yesha te abhihita Sankhya Buddhir yoge tu imam shrunum. He says, Sankhya Buddhi, that means in Sankhya, the knowledge of Sankhya and the Buddhi in the Sankhya knowledge, which I have already spoken to you in the beginning of this chapter itself. Of course, Krishna doesn't say beginning of this chapter. We have to remind ourselves. He says, I have already talked to you from the highest point of view, which is Sankhya. Sankhya means what? About the Atman. Sankhya is what is revealed in the Upanishads. And what is revealed in the Upanishads is the Atman, or the real Swarupam of every one of us. So, Arjuna, I have talked to you from the point of Sankhya or Atma, and it is only this knowledge, knowing your own Swarupam as Akarta, Abhokta, Nitya, Aparichinna, Sthanu, Kutastha, Atma, which we have already seen in these verses, 12th verse to the 25th verse. Knowing yourself as that Atma, which is neither the doer nor the enjoyer. And it's only this knowledge which will ultimately free you from this bondage of samsara. And then you're not going to have any kind of a confusion as to what is to be done, what is not to be done. But Arjuna, you are not yet prepared for this. And anybody who is a mumukshu, a seeker, or a student of Vedanta, who ultimately has his goal as Atmajnanam and freedom from samsara, which we call as moksha. For anybody, if this is the goal, then straight away Atmajnanam may not really help, or Atmajnanam may not really do what it is supposed to do. Why is it so? Because my intellect is not yet prepared for that. My means all of us, most of us are in that stage. We have our goal fixed on moksha. We know that what we want is this ultimate freedom, moksha. And we know that it's only this knowledge, Atmajnanam, which is going to completely release us from this bondage of samsara. At the same time, our intellects are not prepared for this knowledge. Why is it so? Because this knowledge is something which our intellects have not been exposed to, and our intellects are not yet ready to process this knowledge. Because the preparation of the intellect needed to understand and assimilate this knowledge is something very, very different from the same intellect we use for the purposes of laukika vyavahara. That is, for our worldly transactions also, we have to use the same intellect. And to understand this knowledge, Atma Swarupa also, it is the same intellect that has to be used. And as I told you in the last class, the intellect has to be prepared, it has to be refined, it has to be made sharper, it has to be made subtler, to do the job of understanding the subtle knowledge of Atma. And I gave you the example also of a saw. You know, a saw is the same instrument which is used to cut a tree. It is the same saw which we call as a bone saw, which we use in orthopedic surgery. It is the same saw in a smaller miniature version we use in many other subtle and fine surgeries. The instrument is the same, but the instrument has to be refined. It has to be made subtler depending upon what action we are going to use that instrument for. And therefore, Arjuna, you have to prepare your intellect. And through Arjuna, Krishna is addressing all of us that, hey Mumuksho, Mumukshu means a person who is interested in moksha, moktum icha. Moktum ichuhu mumukshuhu, the one who is interested in getting free from this bondage of samsara. Hey Arjuna, ultimately that should be your goal. But unfortunately, right now, since your intellect is not prepared for this subtle operation of understanding this knowledge, you have to go through a preparatory phase. And it is an upaya. There is an upaya. Just because your intellect is not fit enough now for Atmajnana, does it mean that it cannot happen? It can happen, but only thing is there is an upaya for that also. And hey Arjuna, the upaya is actually yoga or karma yoga. So he said, Yeshate abhita sankhye buddhihi yoge tu imam shrunu. All this time I talked to you about Atma and Atmajnanam, but now let me talk to you about the preparation that your mind needs, or the preparatory aspect, or the upaya, or the method of refining or preparing your intellect to understand this knowledge. And he says, Buddhya yukto yaya partha. Yoga Buddhya Yukto, the one who understands and uses this Yoga Buddhi. He said there are two Buddhis, Sankhya Buddhi, Yoga Buddhi. Here Buddhi means knowledge. Knowledge of Sankhya or Atma requires a preparatory phase, and it is the Yoga Buddhi or the knowledge of Yoga. Here Yoga means Karma Yoga. And the one who commits himself to Yoga as Karma Yoga, Buddhi Yoga also it's called as Karma Yoga, the one who commits himself to Karma Yoga with the ultimate goal of moksha in mind. This is a step. Gita talks about actually three steps. Karma Yoga, the first step, by which the gross impurities of the mind are removed and the intellect is so far kind of to some extent prepared for this knowledge. And then the second step he talks about is Upasana Yoga, where the mind is still made subtler to understand the subtlest Atma Brahman that is going to be talked about later. And the third step is Jnana Yoga. And Jnana Yoga is the one which gives knowledge in a prepared intellect. So, Karma Yogena Chitta Shuddhihi, Upasana Yogena Chitta Naishchalyam, and Jnana Yogena Jnanam, and Jnanat Eva Kaivalyam or Jnanat tu Eva Moksham. What Jnana? Atmajnana tu eva moksha. So, buddhi yukto yaya partha, he partha, the one who commits himself to this karma yoga, karma bandham prahasyasi. He gets released from this bondage of karma, which is the very cause of impurities, gross impurities of the mind. Now, let us have a small, discussion about what this karma is. Now, what is karma? Any action is called as karma. Now, whatever action I do in the Vyavaharika Prapancha, in my transactional work that I do in transacting with other people in the world outside, transaction, that's also karma. And whatever karma is vihita or enjoined or described by the Vedas also is a karma, which is, you can call it, a Vaidika karma or a spiritual karma. So, a Laukika karma, a spiritual karma, a religious karma, whatever action I am doing in any field, it is called as karma. Now, whenever I do any karma, the karma is something which comes back to me after getting processed. The karma is something I throw out of, I do it, or I kind of do this karma. Doing means what? I express this karma, put it out in the form of a certain action. And what happens to that karma? Every karma of every individual gets processed. And what is this processing? There are so many variables by which this karma gets processed and comes back to me, the doer, as karma phala. So, what is karma? The action that I do. What is karma phala? The processed karma which comes back to me in a modified form. So, if I am doing the karma phala comes back to me like a boomerang. You throw it and it comes back to me, but comes back in a little different form. And when the karma phala comes back to me, I say that the karma phala has come in the form of papa, punya, dharma, adharma. Dharma means punya, dharma also means punya, adharma also means papa. What is punya? Punya is a conducive situation for me where I'm quite relaxed and happy. Conducive and happy situations in my life. Punya, I call it. And papa, where painful situations in life, sometimes choiceless situations where it is very difficult for me to go through. So here the action that I do comes back to me in the form of a processed karma, which is called as karma phala. And we must remember one thing, that when I do the karma now as an individual, I say that I have done the karma. It is my karma. This is my action. I have done this action. So what happens? This karma or action binds me. The karma itself binds me. And naturally, when the processed karma comes back to me as karma phala, that karma phala also binds me. So both the karma and karma phala bind me. This binding of karma and the karma phala produces lot of disturbances in my intellect in the form of likes and dislikes, raga, dveshas, desires, hatreds, etc. All these are the things which keep on getting produced every time I do an action, every time I receive the karma phala as the processed action, as a phala or the result of my action. Reaction, I can call it, action and reaction. Every time the intellect keeps getting more and more sullied, gets more and more accumulated with raga dveshas. And Krishna says in the entire Bhagavad Gita that managing the raga dveshas is the first thing that a mumukshu has to do, and clearing the intellect of these likes, dislikes, desires, binding desires, hatred, dvesha, all those things which are sullying my mind, which are making my mind impure. The mind has to be refined. The mind has to be purified. And how do I purify it? How is it that I have to act in this jagat? I cannot stop acting. And when I act, I cannot stop the karma phala coming to me or accruing to me. Then what do I do? How do I manage? So our scriptures say that there is a way of handling this karma phala, and the attitude with which you do the karma, execute the karma, and the attitude with which you receive the karma phala, this attitude is what makes you free from the bondage of both karma and karma phala. And it is this attitude towards karma and karma phala which purifies your intellect, your antakarana. And this attitude of doing the karma in such a way, with such an attitude, that neither the karma itself nor the karma phala binds me, and at the same time clears or refines, purifies my intellect and makes my intellect more and more subtle and ready to receive this Atmajnanam. This attitude of doing the karma is called as Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga contains two words, karma and yoga. Karma is the action, yoga is the attitude with which I do the action. So here, the attitude regarding karma has two aspects: the attitude with which I execute the karma and the attitude with which I receive the karma phala. Because karma is invariable, karma phala is also invariable. But then I want to do the karma, execute the karma in such a way that neither the karma nor the karma phala binds me. Neither of these keep on making my intellect more and more gross. I want to simultaneously purify my intellect. And this attitude is called Karma Yoga. And in the next few verses, up till the 46th verse, Lord Krishna is going to talk about Karma Yoga. About means what? He's going to talk to us about all aspects of Karma Yoga, where we look at Karma Yoga from all over, from outside. And it's only from the 47th verse and later on in the later chapter that Krishna actually goes deep into what is Karma Yoga. In the next 6 verses, it is a very, very broad vision where Krishna talks about Karma Yoga. And very briefly, if we want to define what is Karma Yoga, what is this attitude with which one has to do the karma so that I don't get bound? He says here, Krishna is telling that karma bandham prahasyasi, where you are not afflicted by the karma, not bound by the karma or the karma phala, and at the same time, the intellect is purified. Now, that karma yoga can be described in a very beautiful way. What is it? While doing the karma, Ishvara Aradhana Buddhya or Ishvara Arpana Buddhya Karma Kartavyam. I do my karma, I execute my karma as if I'm offering it to the Lord. Ishvara Arpana Buddhya. Ishvara Arpana Buddhi is the attitude with which I execute the karma. Then it no longer is my karma. Why? Because when I do something for Ishvara, I do that karma to the best of my ability to literally surrender that and to offer that karma at the feet of Ishvara. So, when I do the karma, when I execute the karma, Ishvararpana Buddhya karma, and when I receive the karma phala, Ishvara prasada rupena karma phala svikriti. Karma phala svikriti is Ishvara prasad. And whatever comes to me as the processed karma, whatever number of variables have been there in the karma phala that has accrued to me, I don't judge it. I don't see why I have got this, why it has come that way. I accept it as Ishvara Prasada. When I receive something as a prasada from the mutt or from the temple, do I judge and say, oh, yo, I got only this, why I got this, something else should have? No, I don't judge. A prasada is not judged. It is accepted as sacred and accepted as it is with all humility and all gratitude. So, what is Karma Yoga? The attitude with which I do the karma is Ishvara Arpana Buddhya. Ishvara Arpana Buddhya karma and Ishvara Prasada Rupena karma phala svikriti. So let this karma be a vyavaharika karma, laukika karma. Let it be a religious karma. Let it be a spiritual karma in the form of whatever it is. When I do it with the attitude of karma yoga, then karma nor the phalam of karma binds me. And this is the only way a gross intellect can be refined, which can be made yogya or fit to receive this ultimate Atmagnanam, which will free me. So, Karma Yoga does not give me moksha directly. Karma Yoga gives me moksha indirectly because, as a first step, Karma Yoga is necessary to make this intellect ready for this knowledge. And once I receive this knowledge, the prepared intellect, then the knowledge works, which is moksha. So, parampara rupena, paramparataya, it gives me moksha. What? Karma Yoga gives me in a sequential manner. So, our scriptures say, Karma Yoga without Atmagnana is an incomplete sadhana. Okay, because you have cleared the intellect, but for whatever purpose it is cleared, for whatever purpose the intellect was refined, I have not used it for whatever it has to be used. So, Karma Yoga alone, without exposing my intellect later, after sufficient Chitta Shuddhi, to Vedanta and Atmagnana is incomplete sadhana. And Jnana Yoga or studying the Vedanta sections of the Vedas for the sake of this Atmagnana without preparing the mind with Karma Yoga is impossible. So, Karma Yoga without Jnana Yoga is incomplete sadhana. Jnana Yoga without Karma Yoga is impossible. Therefore, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga have to be gone through in a sequential order for a sufficient period of time, taking the Shastra and the Guru's help for me to go travel step by step in the Karma Yoga also and into the Jnana Yoga also. Now, Krishna is going to talk about the Karma Yoga, describing the various aspects of Karma Yoga without directly going into what is Karma Yoga, and for the sake of stuti of Karma Yoga, or for attracting the mumukshu or Arjuna towards this Karma Yoga, Krishna is only going to glorify this Karma Yoga. And glorification of Karma Yoga by Krishna is not simply to glorify. It is, he's telling the truth, but in a little exaggerated manner, in a little glorifying manner, so that, I understand the value of Karma Yoga and get into Karma Yoga. So let us go to the verse 40. So now he says, नेहाभिक्रमनाशोऽस्ति प्रत्यवायो न विद्यते स्वल्पमप्यस्य धर्मस्य त्रायते महतो भयात्. So what is this karma and what is karma yoga? He is giving me the difference now. He is telling us the difference. When you start any karma, for example, any karma it may be, there is a possibility that the minute you start, or as soon as you start, or within a short time of starting that karma, the karma can just become defunct. We have seen that, isn't it? In most of our Laukika karmas, we start with all the enthusiasm, start with all the sankalpa, but then we start the karma, and for some reason or the other, the karma which has begun just stops or gets destroyed. This kind of a thing where a started karma, a begun karma gets destroyed, does not continue further, is called as abhikrama nasha. Abhikrama means beginning. Any karma which has begun can, for no reason, without without my control in it, this karma can get just destroyed or just wither away. So this is called as abhikrama nasha. Let me give you an example. Supposing a farmer sows the seed, he prepares the ground, sows the seed. He has started the karma of growing the crop. That's what Bhagavan Shankara says in his Bhashya, Krishi, Krishyadehi. So the Krishi is begun with the sowing of the seed. But then, for some reason or the other, either there is Ativrishti, or there is Anavrishti, or there is some kind of a pest, infection, whatever it is, suddenly we find that, that karma which had begun in the form of sowing the seed does not become a sapling and the crop doesn't grow. This is abhikrama nasha. And that is possible in all our worldly actions. But here Krishna says, karma yoga, the karma may get lost, but the karma yoga, the attitude with which you do this karma, there is abhikrama dosha, abhikrama nasha is not there. Na iha means karma yoge, abhikrama nasha na asti. That means na iha karma yoge abhikrama nasha asti. Means abhikrama nasha na asti iha karma yoge. Why it is not there? Because it is the attitude with which you do the karma, which will give me the chitta shuddhi, whether the karma fructifies or not. And if I take whatever comes to me as Ishvara Prasada, then even though my karma has failed, it is not going to give me any kind of a bondage of or santapa. It's not going to give me any bondage with santapa or regret or anger or whatever. That does not happen. So he says that for a karma there can be a abhikrama nasha after beginning. But for karma yoga, there is no abhikrama nasha. There is no question of it going waste after starting on the path of or on the en route on karma yoga. There is no question of its loss. Then he says, pratyavayo na vidyate. Pratyavayo means there will not be any adverse effects also. See, we have seen that in karma, when we do any karma, when we start it with a good intention, there is possibility that we may omit to do something in the karma. Fine, we omit to do something. And then when we omit or when we stop the karma in the middle, it may even give me adverse effects. Correct? We have seen that many times. Best example here again in Bhashya, Shankaracharya gives this, that it is like chikitsa. It is like a person taking treatment with medicines. Now the doctor has told me that I have to take this medicine in this particular way for this particular time. But what do? I omit that and I stop the treatment. Treatment is a karma that I have to do. And what is my goal here? I want to get well. So I have started this karma of treatment. But in the middle, I stop this karma and omit. Nothing may happen. Yeah, the thing will come out of it. But there is a possibility of adverse effects coming out of it. That when I stop the treatment, I may have something other than what I started the treatment for. This is called as pratyavaya. Pratyavaya means an adverse effect which accrues or occurs when you omit to do something. That is why in our Veda Purva we have one statements, akarane pratyavaya. That means when you omit to do what you are supposed to do, like Arjuna wanted to omit doing his swadharma. When you omit, when you don't do what you have to do, the act of omission can give rise to an adverse effect, and this adverse effect is called as pratyavaya papa. So he says here, any karma when omitted in the middle can give pratyavaya, adverse effect, but karma yoga cannot give pratyavaya also. Why? Because karma yoga is an attitude. However little bit I practice that attitude, it is only going to help me. There is neither abhikramanasha nor is there pratyavaya. Karma yoga is not afflicted by destruction after starting, nor is it afflicted by adverse effects if I do not do the karma. Because the attitude with which I have started the karma, and probably even I have omitted the karma, the attitude protects me from adversely getting affected. So he says, Neha na iha abhikramanasha asti pratyavayo na vidyate iha karmayoge pratyavayah api na vidyate swalpamapi asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Swalpamapi asya dharmasya. This karma yoga, even if you practice a little bit also, if this attitude of karma yoga is practiced, initially it is going to be only bit by bit. You see, every action that I do with Ishwararpana Buddhi and receive the phala with Ishvara Prasada Buddhi may not be so easy initially. So it may happen occasionally. Maybe in a day or 2 or 3 times it may happen. Swalpamapi asya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. So even if a small quantity, in a small way, this karma yoga is practiced, that also protects you from mahato bhaya, from all kinds of adversities, from all kinds of fears, insecurities about the phalam of your action. Therefore, neither your phala binds you, because you have done whatever you have to do with the best of intentions and with the best of your abilities, as though you're offering your action to Bhagavan, to Ishvara, and then whatever comes without judging it, you're accepting it as Ishvara Prasada. And this attitude, even when it is followed, even in a small quantity, once in a way, even occasionally to start with, has a great benefit. And when you see the benefit, then we are motivated to practice this attitude more and more frequently. Now, in the next verse, Krishna talks about what kind of a clarity of goal a mumukshu should have. So he talks about this in the next verse. We'll go to the 41st verse. Vyavasayatmika buddhihi ekeha kuru nandana bahushakhahyanantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. He says here, hey Arjuna, there are many things which one person can go after. But one has to have the clarity of the goal in one's life. What have I come here for? What is my goal in this life? Is it only artha kama? Is it only going after material pleasures, happiness, going after desires, fulfilling my desires all the time, improving my social status, material status, more and more, follow everything, anything that anybody says to improve my position in this, in this particular jagat? Also, do whatever a portion of Vedas called Veda Purva or Karma Kanda tells me to do to attain higher lokas or Swarga Loka or Pitru Loka after death? So, what is the purpose of your life, Arjuna? You have to have a clarity of the goal which you have selected. And many of us, many of the mumukshus, don't even know what we want. What is it that you want? You want to be only having arthakama purusharthas, only material benefits, live this life as a prakrita purusha, attain material benefits, accumulate material, and live a life of a materialist and go away? Or do you feel that there is some higher purpose in your life? First decide as to what is it that you want in life. So vyavasayatmika buddhihi eka iha kuru nandana. Okay, eka iha kuru nandana. Hey Kurunandana, there is only one real purpose of human life. And you have to know and you have to have a clarity of perception as to what is it that I want. Is it this that I want? Is it this that has, as a human being, this is the highest goal that I'm supposed to achieve? Because Viveka Chudamani says in the first 2 or 3 verses itself, it says that this Narajanma, to get this human life, is so rare. And it is only in this human life that I can try to free myself from this bondage. It is only this human life which is capable of moksha purushartha. No other jiva is capable of moksha purushartha. And if you have got a human life, and if you have got exposure, or if you have got the sangati of great Mahapurushas, Manushyatvam, Mumukshatvam, Mumukshutvam, Mahapurusha Samshrayam. If you have this Mumukshutvam, that is the desire for freedom, a human birth, and association with the Mahapurusha, with the Guru and Shastra, this is the best time you can make use of this life for moksha purushartha, because you don't know when again you are going to get a human janma conducive for this moksha purushartha. Therefore, hey Kurunandana, vyavasayatmika buddhihi. Let your buddhi be, let there be a clarity in your buddhi as to what is your ultimate goal. And Krishna says that moksha purushartha as the ultimate goal of my life is the real goal, real clarity in one's buddhi. Vyavasayatmika buddhi also is called as nishchayatmika buddhi, moksha buddhi, purushartha nishchaya buddhi. So vyavasayatmika buddhi. Now vyavasaya, in regional languages, it can again mean krishi, it can mean agriculture, but here vyavasayatmika, that means let your goal be very, very clear to you. And may you realize that this is the only janma, this is the only time you have to really go for that particular goal. So, hey Kurunandana, may you have that clarity in your goal, which Krishna calls as vyavasayatmika buddhi. Purushartha nishchaya, it is called. Do I want to spend my entire life in Artha Purushartha, Kama Purushartha? Or do I want to seriously try for Moksha Purushartha? This is the Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. And Eka. May you have only one as your goal. Do not go after many goals, trying this today, trying that today. There are so many people who have so many systems. You try this system of meditation, you will get this. You do this, you'll get this. You do, you'll. We go on digging 10 feet or 5 feet in the ground, and we expect to get water. It is not possible. Vyavasayatmika buddhi. Stick. May you first realize what is it that you want, and then be committed to that and do whatever it is to be. And Arjuna, for you mumukshus, for us also, this is meant for us. Let moksha purushartha be the purushartha nishchaya. Let moksha be our vyavasayatmika buddhi. And whatever is necessary for that moksha, go through that. Let that be your commitment. Let that be your nishchaya. Be a karma yogi, refine your intellect, go to Jnana Yoga, be a Jnana Yogi, get the knowledge, and get free. Let this be your goal, Arjuna. That's what he's telling. And this is to praise the role of Karma Yoga in this Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. Because if I have decided that moksha is my goal, then I have to commit myself to Karma Yoga as the first step, as the initial step. So I have to have that clarity also about Karma Yoga. So the clarity towards my ultimate goal and the clarity towards Karma Yoga as my intermittent goal should be very clear to me. So Eka iha kurunandana bahushaka hi anantasha buddhayaha avyavasayinaha. So these avyavasayinaha means avyavasayinam. Avyavasayinam means those who are confused about their what is it that they exactly want, where there is no clarity of the goal that they want. That is the for those kind of people. Avyavasayinam, for people who do not have a clear perception or clarity of what is it that want in life. They have bahu shakhas. There are many methods, many ways in which people want to attain not only the dharma, artha, kama, purusharthas here in this world. Iha, they have many ways of attaining the same in the worlds later also, after death also, that I want to be here, I want to be in this one, then you have to do this, you have to do this, and now I want to have this particular thing fulfilled, so you have to do this. Somebody tells me, oh, you want to get rid of this problem, you have to do this particular. So bahushakha, there are so many branches which I can hold on to and get completely confused and completely lost in the means only. There are so many means and so many ends. So hey Arjuna, hey Mumukshu, first have a clarity of your goal. Fix your goal. What is it that you want? Then automatically you will align yourself to whatever is the means for that particular goal. And if moksha is your goal, then karma yoga will be the first step or the means to moksha as your goal. And this is vyavasayatmika buddhi. Whereas if you don't know this, and if you are going to keep on going here and there, then it is called as the avyavasayatmika buddhi. And what is this avyavasayatmika buddhi? And who are these people who have this kind of avyavasayatmika buddhi is described by Krishna in the next three verses, 42, 43, and 44. So Krishna here describes how a person who does not have any kind of a clarity in his goals, that what he wants out of life, how he jumps from one means to the other, one means to the other. It may be something which is told in the Veda Purva. Veda itself may be telling you that in the Karma Kanda of the Vedas. It may be in some Purana that something is told about, and some other text something is being told about. Some guru tells me to do something, some other person tells me to do something. Now, running after these various means and going for a short time with each means, then changing again for something else, then changing again for something else, and ultimately at the end of this life, I have not reached anywhere. So now he wants to talk about such people, where Krishna calls such people with a avyavasayatmika buddhi. So for such people, avyavasayinam of the 41st verse, what is it? What is life like about? So let us read, we'll read them one by one only, but all the three of them are connected, and you have to see all the three of them as one verse. So he says here, Yamimam pushpitam vacham प्रवद्यन्तव विपश्चितः वेदवादरताः पार्थ नान्यदस्तीति वादिनः. So he says that avipaschitah pravadanti avipaschitah. Who are these avipaschitah? Avivekis, or those who are artharthis, kamarthis, who are after artha and kama, who are willing, who are people who are very rajasic people, who want to do rajasic karmas to attain only short term gains. Such people can never become karma yogis, because these are people who are with a vyavasayatmika buddhi. And what are they? Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avipashchitah. When anybody talks to such people with a flowery language that, hey, do you know that there is something like this? If it is done, this particular karma, it is done. You know, it is told in the Veda Purva, in this particular chapter, in this particular Veda, if you do this, you will get this. If you do this, you will get particular. If you do this particular karma, you will go to Swargaloka. If you do this, you will go to Pitraloka. All these very, very flowery language is used by these Rajasic people to attract others into getting into these kind of very, very flimsy and superficial means which don't take you or which don't lead you anywhere. And who are they? They may be Veda Vada Rataha Partha. They may even be those people who have a great faith in Veda, the portion of the Vedas which deals with Dharma, Artha, Kama, which is called as Karma Kanda or Veda Purva. They are Veda Vada Ratas. They use the very Veda Purva, the Karma Kanda, and try to convince you with all the flowery words to do Sakama Karmas. All the karmas that are, told in the Veda Purva, most of them are either Sakama Karmas or they are Prayashchita Karmas. So either I'm trying to get rid of something or I'm doing something to get something, Sakama Karmas. A Sakama Karma is called as a Rajasa Karma. And I'm not doing this particular karma for Chitta Shuddhi. I'm not doing it as with a Karma Yoga attitude. I'm doing it with the attitude of a Karmi. I'm a Karmi doing the karmas prescribed in some portions of the Vedas for the sake of only material benefits. So I'm not a Karma Yogi. So these are Veda Vada Rathas. And what do they say? Na anya dasti iti vadinaha, who say that nothing else exists in the Vedas. The Vedas are only meant to, there are people who misquote Vedas and say that Vedas are meant only for your material benefit, for material progress. There is nothing else. So you do this, see, this is what is told. So these Vedavada Rathas, those who are committed to the Veda Purva, those who have misunderstood probably many of the things that are told in the Veda Purva, take the Veda Purva or Karma Kanda of Vedas as a means. Many means are given. You want putra, do putra parka meshtiyaga. Avahanti homa, for a for a guru in an ashrama to get more students for him. So many such yagas are there, homas are there in the Veda Purva. There is a purpose for it. But then these Veda Vadaratas are Rajasic people who want to do these karmas only for the sake of attaining their some material benefits, Sakama Karma. And they will mislead you many times to get caught, to get entangled in these type of karmas, Arjuna. And who are they? Who are these avyavasayatmika buddhi, avyavasayinam? What is their attitude towards this life? Mere karmis, using even the Veda Purva, misusing and misquoting the Vedas for the benefit of, for attaining the material benefits. Now he says, what more? Kamatmana swarga paraha janma karma phala pradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogaishwarya gatim prati. So he says here, Kamatmanaha. Who are these Kamatmanaha? Their only interest is in fulfilling their desires for worldly accomplishments. Kamatmanaha or Swargaparas. Swargaparas means reaching the higher worlds. And when I'm here, I enjoy all the sense pleasures, enjoying bhoga, kamatmana, bhoga, enjoying all the sense pleasures. Swargaparaha, wanting to enjoy higher lokas and swarga later also in life when after this body falls. And janma, karma, phala, pradam. And these are the people who don't mind coming back again and again and again into the birth cycle, because their only purpose is trivial means for trivial ends. And such karmis keep coming back again and again and again, embody themselves again and again and come back. And kriya vishesha bahulam. These kriyas, these karmas are bahulam, vishesha bahulam. There are so many of them. So many karmas are there. Which one are you going to do? Which one are you not going to do? When you're doing one thing, you feel something else is more attractive. When that is being done, you feel something else is more attractive. Constantly, these rajasic, karmis are jumping from one means to the other, one means to the other, one means to the other. And ultimately, what are they achieving? They're coming back again and again and again into this whirlpool of life, death, punarapi jananam, punarapi mananam. And all that they want is what? Bhogaishwarya gatim prati. All this is only for the sake of material benefits. Arjuna, do you want to have this? Is this your ultimate goal? Is this your Purushartha Nishchaya? Is only Artha Kama where this kind of coming back again and again, doing all kinds of karmas, jumping from one karma to the other for the sake of only achieving material benefits out of life? Is this your Vyavasayatmika Buddhi? No. This is the most avyavasayatmika Buddhi that one can have. Arjuna, you have to make up your mind now. And this life is the only life you are certain about, because you don't know how you are going to come back again. Make your Purushartha Nishchaya now. And what should be that Purushartha Nishchaya? Eka, Purushartha Nishchaya, Eka Iha. There is one Moksha Purushartha Nishchaya Buddhi you do, and be committed to what has to be done to go through that particular, what are the means that you have to follow for that particular goal. Be committed to that. That is Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. But these people are only getting caught in the whirlpool of samsara again and again. And these people are ultimately what? Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam tayapahrita chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhihi samadhau na vidhiyate. These people are only totally involved in bhoga and aishwarya. Bhoga and Aishwarya. Bhoga means enjoying the material jagat. Aishwarya, control, having control over their surroundings. Control with power, control with money, control with whatever it is. The only thing they are interested in, bhoga and Aishwarya. They're totally involved in that. And apahrita taya apahrita chetasam. And this bhoga and Aishwarya asakti has completely kidnapped, or it has taken hold of their minds, and they are not able to think clearly. They are completely obsessed with bhoga and aishwarya, and this bhoga aishwarya asakti has completely seized, or their minds are under siege. So taya apahrita chetasam, their chetas or their mind has been completely seized by this asakti in material bhoga and aishwarya. And in such people, vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhau na vidhiyate. Such people can never have vyavasayatmika buddhi. Such people can never have the priorities right in their life. And they're simply going round and round and round without knowing what their priorities are, without knowing what is good for them, what is best for them. So, Arjuna, don't be like them. Don't get distracted. Don't get enamored by the multiple means which even Veda Purva may give. And there may be people who will swear by Veda Purva and say, you do this, you'll get this. But don't get misled by them. They are the people who have the most avyavasayatmika buddhi, who will keep coming back again and again, and they will never, never reach the Parama Purushartha or Moksha Purushartha, which is the ultimate goal of human life. Therefore, Arjuna, make your choice now. Let there be a clarity in whatever is your priority. Prioritization with clarity of what is it that you want in life. And Arjuna, moksha is what a mumukshu has to choose as his priority. And we can just introduce the next verse. We have another 5 minutes. त्रैगुण्य विषया वेदाः निस्त्रैगुण्यो भवार्जुन निर्द्वन्द्वो नित्यसत्त्वस्थः निर्योगक्षेम आत्मवान्. So here he says that, see, Veda is not against your fulfilling your artha kama purusharthas in a dharmic way. It will definitely give you the means of attaining whatever you want in a dharmic way. Therefore, the material goal acquisition, material goals of life is the subject matter of Veda Purva. And the Veda Purva gives you a systematic way and the means through which you can attain the material goals of your life in a very, very dharmic and systematic way. But understand, Arjuna, these are also Traigunya. Traigunya means what? Sattva, Rajas, Tamas being the three gunas. Traigunya Vishayaha Veda. Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha. So the Veda Purva, the part of the Vedas which talks about the attainment of the material goals, is definitely associated with the three gunas. Traigunya Vishaya means material acquisitions or material goals is the subject matter of Veda Purva. But whereas Arjuna, may you understand that it is better for you to become Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna. Hey Arjuna, though material benefits, material goals is the Vishaya, is the topic, is the content of Veda Purva, may you become Nistraigunya. That means, what is that? May you get out of using this Veda Purva with a Rajasa Buddhi for merely attaining your Arthakama. May you go beyond this material acquisitions, and you are already in this life. You are already in a life of attaining material things. You are already in this materialistic life. And if you want to go to Vedas, why are you again going into that part of the Veda which is only going to strengthen, which is only going to make you come back again and again into this material way of life? If you want to use the Vedas, try to choose that part of the Vedas which, in which you can get out of this material acquisition or material way of life as the goal of life, and you can have your goal, clarity of your goal, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, as only moksha. So Nistray Gunyo Bhava, Arjuna means, Arjuna, don't be attracted by the material benefits promised in the Veda Purva. May you align yourself to that portion of Vedas, Vedanta, which will help you to get out of the cycle of materialistic life and coming back again and again into this embodiment cycle of birth and death, birth and death. So we'll complete this verse next time. These are all excellent verses on, Karma Yoga introduction. And up till the next verse, till the 46th, till the end of 46th verse, the vision, a superficial overall vision of Karma Yoga is given, which we'll see in the next class. Om Nandantu Sadhaka Sarve Vinashyantu Vidushakaha Avastha Shambhavi Mestu Prasannostu Guru Sada Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkham Apnuyat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.